Hello, my name is Andy, and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro, and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Well, the sun's quite bright this morning here in North Lincolnshire, and I've got someone quite bright with me too. For today's episode, we have a familiar face. Here's Nikki. You haven't seen her for a while, I think since Felixstowe, Trimley St Mary, somewhere in Suffolk, a long time ago. Anyway, I've got a nice little village for you today. This is the parish of Thornton Curtis. Our trip through the parish of Thornton Curtis begins in the small hamlet of Burnham, to the west of the main village. This is a very rural settlement based around farming and takes up area-wise quite a lot of land to the parish's west. It's dominated by fields primarily. That said, there are a few houses, and if you look on an OS map, you'll find that Burnham was once a little bigger. Now, somewhere, according to the OS map around here, there's a medieval settlement, the site of a medieval settlement. Now, I think it's somewhere here. As you leave Burnham to the west, it's either that field there, or it's this enclosed area here where you can see some Christmas trees. Either way, there doesn't appear to be any remains of it now, but according to the OS map, there was at one time a medieval settlement here in Burnham. There's not much online about Burnham. It's one of those places which just quietly minds its own business, sat as it is in the peaceful Lincolnshire countryside. It's notable that Burnham was not the only settlement with this name within North Lincolnshire. It occurs much further west too, close to the village of Haxey. Burnham is located on the National Cycle Route 1. We've met this a few times before, haven't we? It's marked by this yellow post at the main junction with Thornton Curtis Road. If you follow the signs, it'll take you through Melton Ross, a fellow North Lincolnshire parish we've yet to cover. It has a Grade 2 listed property in Burnham Grange. See the picture bit for that one. So that's pretty much it for Burnham. Now it's time to go into Thornton Curtis village. So to Thornton Curtis, a village which gives its name to this civil parish in the North Lincolnshire district, 5 miles southeast from the town of Barton-upon-Humber. The population, including Burnham at the 2011 census, was 295. The population of Thornton Curtis remained relatively stable for the 110 years from 1850 to 1960, but since 1960 there's been a marked decline. Nonetheless, Thornton Curtis retains a pretty decent population, and this appears to be something of a tight-knit community. It's got a few interesting features. Here's an old water pump by the side of the road which has been turned into a pretty nice floral display, although I imagine this looks better in the summer. The name Thornton is from the Old English thorn and tun, meaning village where the thorn trees grow. In the 1086 Domesday Book, the name is written as Torentune. That's the part of the name that can be 100% accounted for. The origin of the Curtis part of the village name, however, is unknown. I thought I was going to find quite a lot of historical information about this one, but I was really wide of the mark with that assumption. Most of the history pertains to one specific landmark, possibly the only one that you're likely to see on a map without visiting the village. Well, thankfully that hail didn't last for too long, but it's really cold at the moment. My fingers are freezing. Like Burnham, a lot of Thornton Curtis is based around agriculture. The size of the parish and the amount of surrounding farmland is testament to this. It may come as no surprise to learn that parts of the village are designated as a conservation area to preserve the village's character. There was a public elementary school here built in 1873 to hold 100 children, with a new wing added in 1904. The main religious building is the church, which is a prominent feature. There were 2 chapels too. The Wesleyan Methodists built a chapel here in 1850, whilst the Primitive Methodists built their chapel in 1859.
I can tell you, but I don't know if I'm right.
Okay, so can you see those 2 circular blue things on the side of this house? Nikki seems to think that they are...
I think that they're building ties. So
and what do they do?
After this building was built, it would have weakened somehow, and the walls will have bowed out. So they'll put those ties in. If we go around the back, there'll probably be another one at the back. And what they're doing is they're actually going to keep the building together, so they're kind of going to bring it back right. You do see them a lot in modern buildings as well.
Here appears to be one of the old chapels on the main road, and this was next to something that neither Nikki nor I haven't seen for quite a while.
Yeah, they're very old ones, 2 of them. 168 miles to London, guys. 167 3/4 if you're going from that side.
It makes a difference, trust me. That just leaves us with demographics for this opening section. Thornton Curtis has a small population density of just 13.66, thanks to it covering just over 19 square kilometres. A fair number of the people living here are over the age of 65. Only 2 people in the entire parish identify as anything other than white British, and the average price for a house in this village weighs in at £333,000. The parish church is a Grade 1 listed building dedicated to St Lawrence and dates from the 12th century. It consists of a 13th century chancel, a nave, aisles, south porch and an embattled 13th century western tower which contains 5 bells. It was restored in 1884 by James Fowler of Louth, which included rebuilding the south porch, the new nave and chancel roofs. So in typical Nikki fashion, I've just stopped to take a few shots of the church, and Nikki's wandered off into the churchyard, the graveyard. What have we found, Nikki? Anything?
Nothing much at the moment. There's a classic mix of very old and some new and recent interments here.
At the back there, there's some new ones. Is there?
Yeah.
Oh right, okay. Let's see if we can catch it just here. There's a horse.
Beautiful white one.
Down Laurel Lane, I believe that road's called. There we go. Good morning.
Good morning. Beautiful.
You only see that in the countryside, don't you?
The head is on the left, and then here one where it's on the ding
church
dong.
bell. That's good timing.
Here where it's on the right.
The lit gate to the churchyard is also a war memorial. There are plenty of attractive flowers in the churchyard too, like these snowdrops. And Nikki noticed these daffodils too along the edge of the churchyard's wall. They might be small, but they do have bus services out here.
Yep, 2 operated by Stagecoach, the 250 to Grimsby or the 455 to Cleethorpes.
Cleethorpes Pier indeed.
Yeah, no Sundays, no public holiday service, so yeah, you're kind of a bit limited.
There's no post office or shop in the village, but there is a post box here which is handy. The nearest shops are in Goxhill or East Halton. I'm not sure this belongs in this section, but TanksRUs are based here. They're a division of the long-established steel fabrication company WH Dale Limited. They specialise in the supply and installation of a variety of tanks and boilers. Nikki spotted a beauty parlour at this house on the left too. And on Laurel Lane, there's a B&B named Pine Lodge. I would imagine a lot of people stay here who are visiting Thornton Curtis's biggest local landmark. There's one public house in the village, the Thornton Hunt Inn, which dates from the 18th century and is a Grade 2 listed building. The inn is also a hotel and has attained a Visit England grading of 4-star Inn Silver Award and can also boast a breakfast award. You might notice the black crosses on the walls of the pub too. These too Nikki suspected to be building ties like the ones on the houses seen earlier. We went around the back to have a look. I'm not totally sure we were supposed to be around here, but there were no similar crosses on the other side, as the pub has apparently been extended. It's always useful to have Nikki's architectural insight, because I've seen these things before, but I had no idea what they were. So there we go.
They're definitely building ties.
Oh, they're definitely building ties, so says Nikki. Brilliant. Always helpful to have spot things like that. Right, we're not quite done with Thornton Curtis yet, because there's still two major things I still need to see. One of them is a station, and we're going there right now. On the way to the station in question, you pass Thornton Hall, a Grade 2 listed country house built between 1695 and 1700 by Sir Rowland Wynne. It's also been home to the Smethurst family in the early 20th century and the Spink family until 1990. It's flanked on either side by Thornton Hall Gardens and by Thornton Hall Farm. It's quite an extensive property, and I for one am a bit surprised it's not a member of the Register of Historic Houses. It remains a private family home, and of course it was well worth stopping to have a look at. Thornton Curtis's local railway station was built by the Great Grimsby and Sheffield Junction Railway in 1849, replacing a former temporary one. The typical Monday to Saturday service is one train every 2 hours between Cleethorpes and Barton-upon-Humber. There's a Sunday service of 4 trains per day in each direction during the summer months only. There are no winter Sunday services at this station. There's a handy map of the route too. Services here were previously operated by Northern Trains but transferred to East Midlands Railway as part of the May 2021 timetable changes. Now you might have noticed that this station is not called Thornton Curtis, it's called Thornton Abbey. And the reason it's called Thornton Abbey is it's because it's named for Thornton Abbey, and we're going to go and find that to finish this video off. Thornton Abbey can be seen from the station, and you can even walk to it from here using this footpath which runs adjacent to the platform. We opted to drive though, because on the way we get a good look at this level crossing over the road and this old railway building which is now boarded up. So then to the 12th century Thornton Abbey. What you're looking at here is not the abbey, rather it's the gatehouse. The actual abbey itself is situated behind this. Close by is the Grade 1 listed Abbott's Lodge, a country house built on the monastic ruins for the MP Sir Vincent Skinner. The gatehouse in itself is impressive. It's the largest and most impressive surviving monastic gatehouse in England. The outside of the building is adorned with 3 almost life-size statues directly above the gate. The abbey itself wasn't open. It's currently undergoing some major conservation work. It was founded as a priory in 1139 by William Le Gros, the Earl of Yorkshire, and raised to the status of abbey in 1148 by Pope Eugene III. It was a house for Augustinian or Black Canons who lived a communal life under the rule of St Augustine, but also undertook pastoral duties outside of the abbey. Due to its involvement in the area's burgeoning wool trade, Thornton was a wealthy and prestigious house with a considerable annual income. It managed to survive the dissolution of the monasteries in 1539 by Henry VIII by becoming a secular college, until that was closed in 1547. These days it's an English heritage site, and in front of the gatehouse is a small picnic area and a pond which Nicky thought may have been an outlet or drain for the abbey.
Yeah, because it looks sort of medieval, and that was sort of their jam, wasn't it? Have a moat and have an inlet, and you know, the little pond and stuff, and a bit of a duck pond, and you know, although there's a few moles and that knocking around here, as you can see.
In 2013, continuing excavation work uncovered a Black Death plague pit in the cemetery of the Abbey's Hospital, containing the remains of at least 48 individuals, including the skeletons of 27 children. DNA was successfully extracted and tested positive for Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the plague, making this the first instance in Britain of a Black Death mass grave found in a rural rather than urban area. A pendant, or Tau cross, was found at the dig, significant too, as it was supposed to ward off the illness. So it's a bit of a shame that the Abbey is not open at the moment, because it would have been nice to go in and have a look and actually see what's in there. But the gatehouse is pretty impressive. It's certainly got Nikki interested. This is kind of the reason that I wanted Nikki with me for this one, because you have a keen architectural eye, and something like this definitely interests you, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, this kind of building's my jam really. I kind of quite like this type of thing.
Yeah.
There's usually a mystery, there's a story, there's something about it that you know, it tells its own story just by its very existence, and if you know how to read the signs properly, you can kind of unpick that. Yeah. You know, and to see something like this essentially in the middle of nowhere is quite something.
Yeah, you don't see it very often, do you? No, so
definitely not.
But that's the beauty of this channel, you know. You find these places and you find out some bits and bobs you didn't even know, like for example building ties.
Oh yeah, I was right about those. I did do a Google, and there's three or four, well, you can get them in varying different shapes, and the Google search threw up the stud style that we'd seen, the X style which you'd also seen, or the cross, which however you want to put it, and there's also one that's like an S. An S shape. Yeah, so yeah, they're quite interesting, just to prevent buildings bowing out and falling down. I mean, in modern buildings you actually get them very small, they're about 12 inches long and they're like a butterfly, and you actually put them between the two walls of the cavity as they're building. But back then of course they didn't have that, when a lot of these houses were built sort of centuries ago. Yeah. So it was, the building ties by the look of it was sort of a remedial action to prevent disaster happening. The last thing that you'd want after spending pounds and pounds on building something is to have the flipping
fall down. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, as long as they work, I suppose. Yep. There you go. Yep. Anyway, that's been the parish of Thornton Curtis, a very small one for you today, although I've probably lengthened it with some interesting stuff here. I've probably lengthened it a little bit with having Nikki with me, but that's okay, because I know you all like to see her, and you will be seeing some more of her soon, I'm sure, because I mean, I know you guys like to have her input in these. It's not all about me.
If I can just on this, because now my working hours have changed slightly, I will be having not as much free time as the one with the GoPro, but I will be having a little bit more free time, and certainly more weekends freed up. So yeah, I think the chances are quite good of seeing me out on the channel a little bit more. I do enjoy it when I do it. It's not very often, but I do enjoy it. Look at that cloud coming in.
Yeah, that looks quite angry.
Yeah, we're going to get in the car.
Yeah, we're going to get in the car. This has been the parish of Thornton Curtis, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot.
And I'm Nikki, Mrs. Village Idiot.
And we're out.